Hello and welcome to Full Circle. I'm Emily Wilmson, the host of this program, and I work for the City of Fort Collins. And I have with us today Mary Atchison, who's the new Director of Social Sustainability. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
Mary, you started with us in January. And tell us a little bit about the Department of Social Sustainability. That's something that maybe a lot of folks aren't familiar with.
Social Sustainability is a new department in the city. It's been in existence for about 18 months, and it was developed to be part of the sustainability service area and to focus on the social side of the triple bottom line.
Okay, and what do we mean by social side? What we're talking about human health? What are we talking? I mean, what is what does your department focus on, really, I guess, is
We
what I should
focus on how the city impacts the people who live here. So people have needs in the community. They have housing and food and all the basic needs that all of us have. And the Social Sustainability Department is set up to look at what the needs are in the community and to ensure that the needs that we have are met, that we have healthy and sustainable systems in place to help people meet their needs in the community.
Okay, great. So that's things like housing that's affordable, working with agencies that provide services. So we don't provide services directly to people in need in the community. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are a funder of services, and we also are a funder of affordable housing projects. And that was done actually previously in the Advanced Planning Department. And the Social Sustainability Department does that, and we focus on other things. So we want to make sure that people have what they need. So housing's important, and the whole continuum of housing affordability is something that we are looking at, and it's a hugely important need in the city. We also are looking at issues around domestic violence, childcare, homelessness, those kinds of issues that really are systemic in nature and affect how people are able to live here in the community.
Okay, and so obviously you have a big network of other organizations that you work with. Who are some of the other folks that you are in close contact with across the city, the community, I guess?
Yeah, in looking at affordable housing, of course, we work with the Fort Collins Housing Authority, Care Housing, Habitat for Humanity, Neighbor to Neighbor, the kinds of programs and agencies that either develop affordable housing or assist people who live in affordable housing. We also work closely with agencies who support the families in affordable housing, such as child care providers, Teaching Tree, and others, the Family Center, and other kinds of agencies, Respite Care, Project Self-Sufficiency. So the agencies that are set up to support families who are trying to move forward in their lives.
Okay, great. So how does what you do fit in with the rest of the sustainability services area, the rest of the sustainability picture at the city with economic health and environmental services? How do you work with those other organizations?
Well, we're the third leg on the stool. So the triple bottom line is focused on environmental health, economic health, and the people, and making sure that people have their needs met as well. So we are an important component and a strong consideration in the work that's done by the other two focus areas. Obviously, the environment impacts the people who live in the community, and the decisions that are made and the way that things are carried out that are focused on improving the environment that we live in definitely impact people who live here and need to have that social lens as well as the environmental lens. And so that's very important to us. And in addition, one of the most important things that people need is economic stability. And so working with the environmental and economic health side are critical components to ensuring that, first of all, they have the lens, like I said, of how the decisions that they make impact the people who live here. And second, it's important for them to understand that the needs that people have so that they can design programs and create systems that will help them. So for example, in economic health, jobs are critically important, and working with them to understand the kinds of jobs that are needed in the community to meet the needs of the people who live here is something that we feel like we can offer and collaborate with them on.
And it sounds like more recently there have been some community surveys and things that have identified housing that's affordable as a major issue
Yes.
for our community. How are we looking at that? We're starting to look at that in more depth. Is that correct?
That is correct. We still have a draft out, and we're asking the community to comment on the draft at our website, which is fcgov.com/social sustainability. And the report is a gap analysis, and we really started the gap analysis to focus on, where are we now? What's the baseline of what's happening in our community? And that will lead into some strategic planning for the Social Sustainability Department on where we're going to be looking and what we're going to be working on for the next 3 to 5 years. The most critical need that came out of the gaps analysis is housing affordability, and especially at the lowest end of the continuum. So we are having a study that is looking at what mechanisms are best practices across the country to ensure that communities have housing that's affordable for all levels of income. And that's something that we hope to have a draft of in the next few months. And so we're very excited to be able to focus on affordable housing and looking at what the city can do or what systems we can put in place to ensure that we really have enough looking into the future. The gaps analysis itself looked at a variety of different issues. So it did look at affordable housing. It looked at the needs of seniors and people with disabilities and other special populations that we have in the community. It also looked at domestic violence, education and at-risk youth, and a variety of other topics, just to see where we're at and so that we can figure out where we need to go.
So from the preliminary report, how are we doing generally? I mean, are we, as a community, are we looking out for the people who live in our community, or are there some major gaps, as like you mentioned, the affordable housing, how are we doing compared to other communities? Are we in good shape? Are we clawing for resources? What?
Yeah.
What's?
We're actually in okay shape.
Yeah.
We're not in great shape, but we're not in terrible shape. So it's kind of in the middle. We have a great safety net of services in the community. The agencies that work together here, including the county, work very well together. There's not a lot of duplication in what they do. The challenge that we have is really the capacity. As we increase in our population, certainly the numbers of people who have needs increase. And so just really keeping up with the need is challenging in all the various sectors of human services, including affordable housing. So the report, the gap analysis, actually found that there was a gap of about 8,800 units that are affordable for people in Fort Collins who are earning less than $25,000 a year. So that's an area, that income level is one that the city is really going to be looking at, and how can we ensure that there's housing for that group, that population that we have in the community. We also found a gap in housing for seniors that's appropriate for seniors and also affordable for seniors. There's just not enough. And in addition to that, people with disabilities are challenged to find housing that's affordable for them and also near transit. So if people are not able to drive, oftentimes they're very isolated if they have to rely on other people for their transportation. So it did identify some specific things around housing that we're going to be looking at and trying to strategize about what we can do in working with our partners in the community and also as a city to try and address those needs.
Okay, great. So what are some next steps? You said you wanted input from the public.
We do.
So give us an example of, do you want people to be evaluating whether you think these numbers are high or low, or just generally, are we missing some gaps, or what kind of public comment would you like?
Well, really all of the above.
Okay.
The gap analysis report is on our website, as I mentioned, and there is a form that people can click on and actually type in comments and submit them.
Okay.
And then we'll work with our consultant to incorporate comments and perhaps do some revisions or whatever to make sure that we did get the accurate picture of what people are experiencing, and so that we can really inform where the city goes from here.
Okay.
And as I said, then the results of that will be used for our department for strategic planning to help direct us in what the most pressing needs are in the community and where we want to focus some attention.
Okay. This is unlike maybe some other areas of the city where, there's a pothole that's you can fix, or there's a tree that needs to be planted in the parks, or this isn't really one you can get your arms around easily, it sounds like.
It's not. It's not. And the needs can change. And there are a large number of organizations and people who are engaged in these issues. And so it really is a matter of collaborating with them, and understanding what the needs are and what role the city needs to play. And since social sustainability as a city department is so new, we're still working with council to determine the menu of roles that we will play in helping to address these needs. But the city recognizes that it does have a role to play. And I think that that's very admirable. There aren't a lot of communities around the country that have taken this on and said we want to step up and make sure that we have a sustainable community for everyone.
Right. And you had mentioned the gaps analysis will lead to more strategic planning. So this isn't, so if people do go and comment on that, that's just part of the process. Yes. And it's an ongoing situation. And when does the strategic planning process get going, or how can people get involved in that? Yeah,
we'll be starting that probably mid-March. Okay. And so we'll be looking at that over the course of the spring. And then we'll visit with council about that in a work session probably in early summer to get input from them. And certainly as we work on the strategic plan, we'll be reaching out to our partners in the community to get input from them. And if people have comments or want to get involved, we'll be doing public outreach as well.
Okay, great. So we'll be promoting that, and in the meantime send people to fcgov.com/social sustainability. So just really quick before we wrap up here, talk a little bit about your background. You have an interesting background. A lot of people know you in the community. What was your path to get to the city here?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've lived in Fort Collins a long time. I graduated from CSU with a couple of degrees actually, and have worked in the human service area since the early 90s. And I moved into a nonprofit organization in 2000. And worked closely there with the United Way, and my organization actually merged with United Way in 2005, and so I've been working with United Way since 2005. So I have been deeply engaged in the community, both professionally and then personally. I've also volunteered with the library and with transportation issues and a variety of things that are really critical in making sure that our community is a great place to live. So it's something that's really important to me.
Great. Well, we're thrilled to have you. Once again, thank you, Mary, for joining us today. And any closing thoughts before we wrap up about any of the issues we talked about today?
Well, I'm very excited that the city has taken this on. I think that it's a critical role for us to play in the community, and I just look forward to moving this idea and this concept forward and doing a lot of hard work.
Great. Well, thanks. Well, thank you for joining us on Full Circle. We'll be back next month, and we'll talk to you soon.